how do spouses work together well? A woman named Alison Armstrong, and she talked about how sometimes women will hold sex over a man because if they say no, they're like holding the power and they can manipulate like,
well, we're not going because you didn't take out the garbage or whatever.
Or they can just kind of stonewall. And then it's like, hey, when you entered a marriage, you and your husband signed up for like, you are always going to eat in the same kitchen every night. And if you are the one that decides the kitchen is closed because I said so, what does that do for the man? And so it was this, kind of framework of keep the kitchen open, but you are so allowed to have your boundaries. We've transferred this to business.
Yeah.
You and I both came from previous marriages where we kind of ended up in a situation where our ambitions or our growth were kind of threatening to the other person. I felt like there was a request to sacrifice my dream to keep my partner, my ex-husband, safe in what he wanted. And that's a really hard place to end up because it's like there's no winning. Today we were going to talk about a common question that we receive.
Everyone always asks me about my hair routine.
Everyone asks me about my skincare routine.
Everyone asks me about my skincare routine.
No one in the history of ever has ever asked me about my skincare routine, so I don't believe when anyone ever says that.
Everyone asks me about mine.
I can tell for you. Well, I think what would be, when we started the Rare Things podcast and we put out some posts where we said, what are some of the topics you'd want us to cover? One that was pretty popular that we are asked in person from people of all different backgrounds too is how do spouses work together well? Another tangent of that kind of question is how do I get my spouse to join the business or support the business, support me in what I'm doing in my business? And great question. So glad you asked.
Yeah, they're related questions, but it's funny. You can tell sometimes when because we definitely are actually asked this question,
Everyone asks me all the time.
Everyone asks me all the time. It's like, no, they don't. But this one actually people do ask
You're just not good at writing hooks.
Yeah, you're just bad at hooks. So then when someone actually is asking the rest of us something, it makes it look like we're not being asked that.
And we are an expert on this question because we have mastered it.
Mastered.
Yeah.
That's why we're qualified to give a response. No, that is though, I feel like half the time when we're asked, what's it like working together? Half of it is that they want to hear how we got each other on board. I
think it's interesting. It's similar to when people ask what their morning routine is. It's interesting to hear other perspectives.
Yeah. What they're really asking is, I want help with my morning routine. Yeah. Right? That's what they're,
What are all the options on the table?
But working together though.
And in working together, we have a yours, mine, and ours situation. We have our individual businesses and we have businesses together. We have plans for future businesses. We also have plans for separate businesses. Yeah. And I think for a while we talked about that too, of what should it be like? And we looked for inspiration outside of ourselves too. Yeah. So we've asked this question.
We've asked that question too.
And we've gotten a smorgasbord of answers.
Yeah.
A buffet of answers, if you will.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
I did find a lot of answers though in a book that was given to me by a friend. That it was the book Way of the Superior Man. Oh. Great book.
There's like
every time I say that title, you have the same reaction.
And I also want to preface, because we've also had to put a disclaimer on this book that sometimes the title makes it sound like toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that's not what it is.
It is not at all. And I gift this book to my friends' husbands.
Yeah.
And then we've gotten the feedback from those friends and their husbands to be like, whoa.
What?
For multiple reasons. Yeah. For their intimacy. Right. And it also is, I think, a big reason why we are together.
Yeah. So in that book, it talks a lot about, the role between the masculine and the feminine. And in fact, the message I was just listening to before we pressed record on this was from one of my clients, and she was saying how, some of the copy formulas, she's like, that was very masculine, but we need it to be written for feminine, and my point is that business kind of is a masculine pursuit, right? And so one of the things that can be challenging in a relationship where both, like the man and the woman are both working together, is that can kind of be both a masculine pursuit. And so what I wanted to learn how to do, and I kind of became aware of that before you and I came together. I wanted to be able to create a situation. How do you guys work together? There needed to be room for me to be fine with another masculine energy. You know what I mean? You're extremely feminine. That's not what I'm saying.
No, but we're also going to talk about how you've allowed me to be feminine too.
Right. But like, I wanted to create a scenario where when the workday is over, you get a chance to go back to the feminine, and I invite you with more masculine to do that. And there's like a way to do that, you know? And sometimes it means like I need a little space when I come back home for a little bit to kind of just transition, or I need a little, you know, it's creating scenarios where you're not constantly being invited back to the masculine, and it lets you rest. And I think one of the dangers is in couples where they both work together or in the same business or whatever it is simultaneously, is if there's no hard lines in the sand on like, hey, business hours are now open, right? Then it means business hours are always open, which means it can constantly invite you always back to the masculine. You know what I'm saying? And then it means that it actually can throw off the relationship part of the relationship where we can flip back and forth. Instead of having like our business life and our home life, and granted, our home life, you know, we do a lot of business stuff. We talk ideas, but if it's this constant thing where we got to put on, you know, one of the things I like the most in the book, Way of the Spirit Man, is it talks about how the masculine is very directed, focused energy, right? Whereas feminine is more like the ocean, right? And he uses those examples where it's like the masculine is a channel, like a river, right? And it's directed energy, where the feminine is more like the ocean. And there's times where the ocean can storm, but it's very all encompassing and very beautiful, can swallow you up, kind of a thing. And so, but if I'm constantly, hey, let me keep brainstorming with you late into the night and force you into your masculine while we make directed decisions, it actually means that you can't be feminine.
We have frameworks for this.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's where my head goes, is like, how can there's a lot of answers to this, but I think in the square of it, like in my head, it comes down to, do we have, you know, not that we don't ever just spitball ideas back and forth, and brainstorm, but like, is there a way that I can foster your femininity outside of business hours, which is actually where your rest comes? And if I'm constantly like, stay in the masculine, it can burn out your feminine, you know, burn you out emotionally.
In business, like before we were together, I obviously didn't run a business with you before I was with you. When I was like running my business by myself, I was in a lot of like masculine mode, because masculine is a little more like go, hunt, pursue, chase.
Right. Get the deal.
Yeah. And then I don't think I had the awareness or framework to like come into feminine. I didn't actually understand the differences between those kind of different frameworks or states. And so after my divorce, I started to learn about that, and like started wearing pink, and had, you know, pictures of beautiful, empowering women in my house that were, you know, reminders of to have that balance. And then in relationship and in business with you, we've kind of found where, yes, I can still be in my masculine in certain states, but then also where we can find our certain strengths, and where we are empowered, and places where like, I want you to lead in these areas, and you know that I have strengths leading in some of these areas, where I can be in masculine or feminine. And when you were saying, I started to think of like the 5 core functions of business, like lead generation, lead nurture, lead conversion, fulfillment, retention, upsell. Some of those seem more masculine and some seem more feminine. Like I would say that lead nurture, fulfillment may also be, but there's also masculine and feminine to both. So I don't want to pigeonhole it.
Sure.
But yeah, like it's the play off of each other. And then we don't necessarily have like, hey, after 5 o'clock, we don't talk about business.
No.
Because we love what we do. And
also ideas come randomly.
Yeah.
Right.
But we also have frameworks for, you mentioned you might come brainstorm with me at night. And
and I know, because I made mistakes on this, right? Where it's like, you're like, I'm literally in bed, and I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm keeping you up, you know? And you're like, I'm just trying to get some, like, literally recharge physically, but also emotionally. I'm like, oh man.
But at the same time, I'm like, I love this, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to speak with you. But we've came up with, we have a framework that is just like, one word, that it's our trigger word or cue word. And it's pumpkin.
Yeah.
I am turning into a pumpkin right now.
As soon as you say that, I know
hands
that
off, like we're
in
done.
one word, what you're really saying is, I need you to get out of here
Ticking
right now.
clock. I'm going to go from 0 to 100.
There's a stick of dynamite here, and I'm grateful for what happening right now. I love you, but there's literally a lighter, and I've already lit it. So, like, how many inches away do you want me to get to lighting the stick of dynamite? Right? And it's not out of anything negative at all. In fact, it's created this really powerful safety.
Yeah. Well, and where I got it from was I took a relationship course years ago, like my early 20s. It was called PAX, a woman named Alison Armstrong, and she talked about this framework. It was actually a framework for intimacy, sex in a relationship, where she talked about this. So, I mean, if you hear this now, it's like, oh, of course. But at the time it was like, let me just get into it. She talked about how sometimes women will hold sex over a man because if they say no, they're like holding the power, and they can manipulate, like, well, we're not going because you didn't take out the garbage or whatever, or they can just kind of stonewall. And then it's like, hey, when you entered a marriage, you and your husband signed up for, like, you are always going to eat in the same kitchen every night. And if you are the one that decides the kitchen is closed because I said so, what does that do for the man? And so it was this, kind of framework of keep the kitchen open, but you are so allowed to have your boundaries to say, listen, yes, the kitchen is open. We've entered this marriage for this is one of the reasons why we're in this marriage. But if you ask to eat in the kitchen after 10 o'clock, the kitchen is closed because that's when I need to sleep, or these hours when I'm taking care of the kids. And the code word is pumpkin. Like after 10 o'clock, the carriage turns into a pumpkin and no one's getting a ride.
Yeah. That's a great.
Yes. So we've transferred this to business.
Yeah.
We could talk all the time about our ideas and frameworks. Mm-hmm. And I know I do it to you too. Like I'll come into your office 3 times a night and be like, oh, here's this thing too. And here's this thing too. You've never said pumpkin to me. Do you have
I think you can just tell when I'm in flow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I want to hear this, but I can't.
And then I tiptoe backwards out the door. Just shove food under the door. Okay, see you later.
Throw water bottles at me. Stay alive. I'm coming back later. Yeah, no, I also think that it's cool, though, that we have agreed that honeymoon is not a phase. It's a lifestyle, but it's a decision.
Yeah.
That all love, there's an infatuation period, just this very normal and chemical, but after that, it's nothing more than a simple decision. Mm-hmm. And there's things that you do because of that decision. And we're pretty good at having a consistent date night. It ebbs and flows.
It took us a while to figure out when it was. We tried to make it like every Tuesday. And then we're like, in the middle of the week or something, it's just tough. So now we made it Friday because it's like, oh, it's easier at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Even if there is a function or something on a Friday, we'll make that into our date night. But
make it a date night, or be like, hey, look, we got something else going on, or like
this week we're doing it on Sunday instead of Friday.
Right. It's like there's some play that happens there back and forth, but working with your significant other does not take the place of dating. That's so different than dating.
Oh, yeah. And like we go on so many business trips.
Yeah.
That what we've talked about doing is when we have the calendar, and we have a few calendars in our house. We have like a family calendar, we have our business calendars, there's some overlap in them. But like when we set up the year, we put the personal stuff first and then the business around it. And sure, there will be business trips that we tack on time to the end because it's why not?
Yeah.
And then in how we work together in business, I think there's you talk about all the time, the roles and goals. Yeah. Roles and goals. What our strengths and weaknesses are. And the transparency in that of, we were talking to a friend the other day and we asked him this same question of, because he's also like a very leader in an entrepreneurial space and gets the same question too. And he was like, often when people are asking about like, how do I get my spouse on board? It's also how honest am I being in my communication? And that's something that like we've grown over time of just having such transparency on, here's what's on the table for me. Here's my constraints. Here's what I'm struggling with. Like I had struggles around like messes in the house from the kids, like not doing the dishes or something. And I'm like, they're yelling at me. My brain can't think. And then to have the space to, you actually help me work through that, to be like, hey, now I realize, thanks to how we can mental volley with each other, the dishes in the sink is not a threat to my survival. And I can still communicate to say like, hey kids, personal responsibility, let's do the dishes. But it's also allowed me to change my mindsets to realize that this threat to my survival of the dishes was an illusion. And so that also opens up other conversations we can have in business about decisions we're making or tasks we're taking on.
Yeah. I also think that dating as an entrepreneurial couple is very meeting each other is it's essential. And it's essential because you're changing so much as an individual at a faster rate than the rest of humanity. You know, like I can look back even 4 years ago and who I was. I am a different person. And that's really when you and I started dating. It's 4 years ago.
Think about how much changes in a week.
We're so different, so fast. It's kind of unrecognizable and blinding. It can be very threatening to people outside of the entrepreneurial space because you're like, holy cow, you're growing just so quick. And you don't realize it, you know? It's like not realizing that your hair grew after one day later. You know, you just don't know. But if you don't, I feel like one of the purposes of consistent dating is to continue to re-meet each other. Hey, this is how I've been changing over the last week. You know, and that's really what's happening, is a reintroduction of a new you and the subtle changes, so that you're taking your significant other with you on the journey, rather than, because I know you ran into this as well, where it's like you grow so fast, business can be busy, you know, and you can go months or years down the line and then suddenly look back and go, wait, you're over there? Holy crap, I didn't mean to be. And it's no ill intent, but I'm actually over here. And we're on different paths now, you know, and I credit the fact that you and I, even if we've missed a date or whatever, I didn't even have that habit for a while. Like, we keep meeting each other, and there's also the license to change. You know, there's license to grow, license to develop with that. 'Cause I think that it takes too often. People are like, oh, well, how do you get your spouse on board, or how do you know, what's it like being in business with each other? And I think that there's like a tactical answer, and it's more of a mindset. So like, look, I'm going to change, you're going to change. Let's just make it so it's safe to do so.
That's like a foundation and value in our relationship, is that we want to change. We know we're going to change. And also, don't deny me the opportunity to be the person next to you while you change. Don't feel like this change is going to be hard and are they going to agree with it? You know, I want to be next to you on that, no matter what direction you're taking. Yeah. And as long as we're communicating along the way, it's not like one day I'll be blindsided with, oh my gosh, you're doing this thing over here. How did I not know, if we're doing it together? You and I both came from previous marriages where we kind of ended up in a situation where our ambitions or our growth were kind of threatening to the other person, or at least I can say that for myself.
Yeah, me too.
And that was a big thing that ended the marriage, because it was like, I felt like there was a request to sacrifice my dream to keep my partner, my ex-husband, safe in what he wanted. And that's a really hard place to end up, because it's like, there's no winning. There's no winning there, because there's going to be resentment on one side if you can't come to a solution. And I think I love this quote. I think it was the Hermoses or someone that said it, that like the game is won in the draft. When we entered into our relationship, and we've had friends that joked of like, the way we entered into our relationship was like we were detonating an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Very
carefully.
We were so cautious. We have, and I still have in the office over there, a list of all the reasons why we shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
That was also one of my coping mechanisms to try to like hold you off longer while I was trying to figure out if, you know, my own personal therapy to accept that, wait, this is a healthy relationship. While I've been so used to all these emotionally unavailable relationships, I had to work some stuff out in my mind. But we did some therapy individually and together, because we were so cautious of, we had codependent relationships previously. And I remember I had a friend that, when you were starting to pursue me and I was like, I don't know, she was like, you're dumb. Steven's amazing. And then she said this thing that she's like, Steve Larson is not someone you just date. And that also scared me too, because it's like, as much as I want the happily ever after fairy tale, wait, for real? Like, this is serious, and he's also healthy and amazing and all these things.
I'm kind of an all in or all out guy.
Right. And
it reminds me of the song that you kept playing at the beginning of our relationship.
Grow as we go.
Grow as we go.
Yeah.
Because there was it wasn't long ago. I remember there was, I came to you, I sat down next to you, and I said, hey, look, I am not executing in business like I know that I should, because I know how fast I change and how much it can swallow me up. And I actually want that. You remember this? And then I said, I'm also concerned, though, that me going and doing that, you're going to see a new form of me showing up that would push you away.
Because that's what
I
that was your evidence in previous relationships.
Right. That going all in the business again and having fun in that again and creating at just fun speed again for me, and that it would push away relationships. And so we talked about that. And that's when you said, and you just, I mean, you floored me. I mean, I thought about this like crazy, and you said, don't deny me. That's what you said. Don't deny me the opportunity to love you as you grow. And
I want that.
I was like, holy crap. I never thought that existed. Like, that is such a cool mindset, because I think where sometimes entrepreneurs kind of get screwed over is pop culture, and even in songs. The songs are about like, oh, you changed, and
you have to sacrifice and give it all up, and it has to be hard and tear you apart to find love.
But even like the whole, like, there's songs where it's just like making fun of the fact that the other person changed. Of course they changed. It's called life, you know? And people are like, you changed, Steven. I'm like, yeah, I hated diapers, you know? So I grew, and then I kept growing, and then I kept changing, and I'm always going to. And so I'm re-meeting me just as much as you are. But if you're not with someone who is like, they're so, because I think there's something to be said of someone who doesn't want to support you as you grow. There's also to be something to be said for someone who doesn't want to support you because they are so insecure, they're desperately clinging to just consistency because it's the devil they know. You know what I mean?
And that understanding can change how you both show up to it.
Yeah.
If you're in a really healthy marriage, you both want to see each other live full out, full ambitious, reckless abandon, happiness, joy, bliss. Of course, the challenges that come with that. But if you're strong, you go through them together. So why wouldn't you want that for each other? And if it is just like one of those hard conversations that the only way out is through,
yeah,
and that's not something you can stay surface level or sugarcoat. It's like, this is my dream. This is where I want to go. And I want to tell you this, even though it feels hard, and I hope that you love me on the other side. I'm going to change, and I hope that you still love me for who I become. And so when we had, I'm paraphrasing, but that conversation, I was like, that sounds amazing. Of course that's what I want. Please don't hold yourself back for me. What an illusion. You would be doing a disservice to both of us, because you going full out only is going to inspire me. You know what? But there also might be times where it triggers me.
Yeah.
And if it does,
that doesn't mean don't go.
It means there's an area to look at here.
Yeah, and then you become these catalysts for hyper growth in each other. Not that you're trying to like piss each other off. It's not, because we don't do that. And I love that we don't. There's just no room for games. I'm not no room for that. And I love that we don't do those manipulative, dumb things to each other. We're just open and honest. But you pursuing, like, for example, you go out and you do this video, the cancel culture video.
Oh yeah.
And you go and you you literally win a film festival in New York, your first one. And
LA.
then it's shown to the president of Paramount. And I mean, it's like, holy, all this stuff. And I was sitting there and I was like, crap, why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? And it was inspiring. And I think that that's the context that needs to be created when you're with, is that there does need to be a sense of self that's strong enough that says, go fly, be a rocket ship. And I'm going to be inspired by you rather than threatened by you. Because we both also came from that, where it's like our growth would threaten the other, even though we weren't trying to, I love that about us. That there's these, I'll do something and you're like, man, that's awesome. We had to remove any kind of comparative framework.
Comparative or competitive?
Competitive. We're not trying to outdo each other. We're on different roads, different paths, and they do intertwine in certain places. But like, I remember when you first said, like, I want to go be in Hollywood. And my question in my head wasn't, I wonder if she can make it. It was, how will I handle it when she is? Oh my gosh. What am I going to say to Robert Downey Jr.? I like only know 2 of his movies. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know any of these actors' names. And it's funny because that's actually what it caused in me. Rather than just being like, oh, castrate your dreams.
Cute.
Yeah, cute job. Hopefully you do a pat on the head. It's like, instead it's just, I'm full in, I'm full here. But then it's funny because what actually happened was like, I got to go. Like, I had a whole session on that. I was like, how am I going to go handle it when Marley's like really famous? You know? And I talked to a lot of my friends and they helped me go through it. Like, yeah, okay, look at all the spouses of super famous people. Like, what do they do? What do they not? And that's where I put my focus on, rather than, because I don't know how I'll handle it. Oh, let me downplay your dream. I'm going to keep you back subconsciously and try to go mess with your vision because I can't handle it. And if I just knew out of the gate that if we had that kind of relationship, like, it wouldn't last, because I'm going to grow like crazy.
Both of us.
So
that's what we've agreed to.
Yeah. So it's half the reason for this podcast. That's rare. Mm-hmm. It is rare. There's one other part I wanted to bring up with this. I think that it's neat that when we're with each other, like you have your business, I have mine. There's this really unique license we've given to each other to both be by each other's side as we grow, celebrate the growth. I'll keep re-meeting you. We'll keep dating as we go. But there's also this, I've noticed we've both done it, where you can tell, I think, you can tell that you think I'm about to go make a business mistake. Mm. And instead of saving, you'll mention and then let me.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. But then I'll do the same.
Yeah.
We're not codependent on each other as a person, but also not codependent on like, the success of my business was reflective of you. The success of your business reflective of me. Therefore, I'm going to be super hyper involved in every decision you make, even though it's not my business. You know, it's like and so it's cool because we've also created this relationship where I'm on my own path, and 50% of the mistakes I make, maybe you saw ahead of time, and you didn't save me. And some might look at that as a form of not love, but I think it's exactly the opposite. It's exactly the opposite. You know, and there's also like things that you've done, and I'm like, you know, I don't know that I would have done that out of the gate anyway. And it's not that we're not saying anything. We usually do say something to each other. Yeah. But then we'll also just like, I'm celebrating your route, you're celebrating my route, and the bumps that go on the way. Maybe it was not really about the decision. Maybe there's something internally that, old Stevie just had to rough out the rough patch, you know, smooth it out a little bit. And it's something I had to go through it.
Right. If someone skips the experience for you, will you actually get the lesson? And yeah, I love that we've been able to, you know, you'll say to me like, hey, mirror? Like, that's your way of saying, mirror? Can I hold the mirror up real quick? You've actually physically
I picked up the wall mirror once. Mirror?
I was like, we've never had the mirror on the bed like this. Whoa.
That's funny.
Intimidating.
Mirror?
But I love that that
is our word.
That's our word. That's right. For like, hey, can I tell you something that that I'd like to reflect to you? And it's like asking for permission to maybe say something hard. Yeah. And we also have the framework of me being able to say like, hey, this feels hard, and will you still love me on the other side of it?
I don't know what this is yet, but I have to say it.
Yeah. Sometimes we also, if we don't know how to label the emotion that we're feeling, if there's like a tension, but we're like, I don't know what this is, we'll just say like, I can't name this. But there's something I'm feeling. Are you feeling something?
Don't want it to fester, so I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah. 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 It's really cool that we do that. And I can think of things that you've hinted at me, like in my business, I have, and I actually was listening to a podcast this morning about sometimes it's good to have financial constraints because it makes you be more creative. Mm. And sometimes my coping mechanism is just like throw money at the problems. And you have been a really good inspiration to me of being more creative with solving problems and being more frugal. Is that the right with your money in a good way?
Sure.
And I spend differently than you, and I now have learned the hard way that I need to be more like you in that way. And you've hinted at some of those things to me, like you've been a mirror for me. But if you just said, Marley, you got to stop spending like this. Don't spend your money here. That's not a good idea. Like that would come down like a parent or like a control thing.
Yeah.
And how could I hear you? if you were to do that. You've never spoken to me like that. But the way that you could hint and be like, this is something you may consider.
Yeah.
And then I figured out on my own, I'm like, oh, Stephen did say that. And I didn't hear it in the way that I needed to at the time. And now I learned it experientially, and kumbaya.
Yeah. It's fun though that we both have done that to each other.
Yeah.
Like I know you've done it to me also, where I'm like, okay, let's go. I want to put another thing out. Hey, I'll see you in like 3 days because I'm going to go hibernate and build a funnel.
I'll stuff food under the floor.
And yeah, you're like, all right, I'll go stuff food under the floor. But you know what? Honestly, like you could just take 3 hours and instead of building another funnel, just what if you like
responded to all your
DMs? And I'm like, oh, there's money in here. I could just close these deals now, right?
There's literally people asking how to sign up.
Right,
for
you're
your
like
program.
shorting the distance to the sale for me, and it took a little while for me to stub my own toe and be like, but you didn't save me. You know, you didn't rob me of the experience that I needed to go through. And now I'm like, holy crap, Marley was saying that to me a bit ago. But like we do that without trying to control each other. And that's rare. That's so cool.
And I like that there's the safety for that of being able to ask for it too. Like you'll be like, hey, project, please.
Project. I got a blind spot. I can tell. I can't see it. Could you tell me what you're seeing? I love that we have that safety and trust. Yeah.
Like what better mastermind is there?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas in previous relationships I've been in, there's been a more like attack and defend.
Put your armor up.
When are you gonna, and maybe a little bit of silent treatment or cold shoulder, or, you know, some of these are just the coping mechanisms that I didn't have the tools for at the time. Other people that I've witnessed, and I've been around people that when they don't know how to communicate with their spouse, they'll communicate with other people to vent about it. And I have a friend that I respect this so much. She called out that other friend to say like, hey, awesome. I've noticed that you complain about your spouse a lot, and I'm wondering if you've ever told them. And I was like, woo, she's going down right now. Like, what is this going to end this friendship, or is she going to take the bait? And I don't know if I would have been brave enough to do that, but it's also now hinted for me, like, could I say the quiet thing out loud when we see that? Because I respect that so much when I have girlfriends that they never say a bad thing about and of course everyone has space to vent, and
that's different than complaining though.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know, I really respect and want to be around people that they are just constantly edifying and celebrating their spouse behind their back.
Yeah.
And
we do that to each other.
Yeah.
We absolutely celebrate each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And or then there'll be people that will like and we see this on TV all the time. The sitcom framework is the hot wife, dopey husband, all the jokes at his expense, and he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's just what we see. So then if we don't have an environment or influence of another way, it's just what we think is common.
Default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want our kids to grow up thinking that that's normal or okay. And we just don't give them that.
What I've noticed is, but them watching us as well, is they will say things that I would never have said at their age. I'm not saying like bad things, but it's a level of vulnerable honesty because they know how safe they are. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because they watch how safe you and I are in each other's arms also.
Yeah.
To just say what needs to be said.
Yeah.
And if we can't we put words to it, we're at least beginning the conversation to remove any room for resentment building up. Mm-hmm. You know, and they've brought stuff up to me before, and they're like, hey, I'm feeling this, I'm wanting this, I'm wishing this, I need some alone time.
They're so good at asking for what they need.
I didn't even know those things were a thing when I was your age.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
They can ask for what they need, where I don't think I could ask for what I need at that level until my 30s, and all of this therapy to feel like I'm safe to ask for what I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if I ask for what I need and it's rejected, that doesn't mean that I am unworthy or abandoned.
Yeah. So how do we work together in business life? I think it's not a business answer. It's first having a legitimate, actual, real relationship, and then the business stuff just comes easy. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like, well, we have to schedule the time at 9:15 every day for us to do our, like, it's not that. It's
and sometimes that structure works for people.
For sure. And we're starting to do a weekly meeting where you and I can just like do our planning sessions, and we're now starting that.
We have a format for it too. Like we have bullet points that we go through.
Yeah.
What would you say for people that like their relationship is hard right now because they're not on the same page. One is running a business, the other doesn't get it. That other wants more security, or like, when is this business going to finally work? Or when are you going to give up and try something, or go to something safe, get a job? Because we've both experienced that. And maybe before you answer that, there's a quote that we've heard that I don't like, that is, "You're only as successful as your spouse allows you to be."
I hate that quote.
And I'm like, well, I got divorced. So I made a decision to go after my dream and my happiness, because at that time, and I'm not trying to blame, like, I did not have the tools that I have now in my previous marriage. If I did, maybe it could have been different, but I'm also grateful for it. And I don't see that as a failure. I see that as something I had to experience to be able to be where I am now. And if there was one day where I revisit that relationship, communicate of like, hey, let's shake hands with that, I'd be grateful too. But I don't like that quote, because I don't think it's about allowing. I don't need your permission to go after my goals.
It's a victim mentality. That whole quote is baked in victim. Yeah, you're only successful as it allows. Like, oh, let me give up my power and dream then. It's like, what? That's exactly what it's saying.
That's a lot. Yeah, you're putting the power in them. I feel like the sentiment though is like that your spouse encourages you and supports you and pushes your potential. And like, I love when you say that about me, that I encourage your potential. Like, that's the best thing that I can ask for.
Yeah.
But if there was ever anything that I was doing that held you back, I would not expect you to sacrifice. And that would be doing a disservice to everyone.
Well, it's interesting because like, I don't know that I feel super qualified to answer this or give advice, because like, what do you do when someone is not supporting you? Like, and I love that we honor our past relationships. Nothing but respect for where we both have come from. You know, wouldn't be who we are without it. So, but in terms of what do you do when the spouse isn't on board? It's so tough to answer that. It's case by case, you know? I think the biggest thing you can do is, in fact, there was a coach a couple of years ago that I had, who he helped me see that. He said, stop asking every relationship in your life to meet all of the needs you have as a human being. He said, I have guy friends that I go do like technology stuff with. But if I also want those same group of friends to be the friends that I go do something that's like masculine and tough, it's going to be a tough expectation and they're going to fall short every time. He's like, so I have my friends over here that do my business stuff. I have my friends over here that do like hardcore working out stuff. I have relationships over here. And I think what you can create, if you're conscious about it, is first of all, to just get really clear on actual legitimate science-backed human needs, right? And don't try to dump all eggs into the spouse basket on the needs, right? That I know I can't ever meet all your needs. I'm not a woman. There's certain types of feminine recharge that you cannot have with me. It's impossible.
There was a framework in that PAX course of like, women are expecting their husbands to be hairy women.
Hairy women. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. It's like, but it's the same thing. Like, there's certain needs that you just won't be able to meet of mine. Like, I really want to go backpack for 3 weeks across the Himalayas with a Sherpa. I don't know if you want to go do that. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
I'll meet you at the spa after.
That's what I'm talking about, right? And I think that there's sometimes this notion where it's like, my spouse has to completely back my business idea. Do they? Maybe it's just not the party for that.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe it's just these other areas of your life and you get that emotionally fed from other baskets, so to speak, you know? And so I don't know that there's any kind of advice that we can actually give on this by saying like, here's what you got to go do. I think it's, do you have absolute clarity and vision? I love the question. Are you being completely honest with your spouse as well? Like totally, completely, vulnerably honest on where your head is at.
Yeah. Do you have your own sense of self solidified?
Yeah. Do you have your own sense of self solidified? Also, are you trying to expect, because that's what he started asking me several years ago. And he's like, well, he's like, my group of friends over here that like to watch these kinds of movies, they're not also the same guys that I like to go work out hard with and do something that's physically intense, which is also not the same group as my business friends. He's like, that whole notion where it's like, it takes a village to raise a child. It still takes a village to sustain an adult, right? There's more, the human needs are just, they're such a real thing. And you know this about me. I was like, I didn't know what the human needs were at all, where it was like 6 of them, right? And I thought all of them, if you had a need, it meant you were weak, was my belief. But how funny that I was in such pain, and then I would put a very unfair expectation on previous relationships on how much needs they had to meet, because I was not also working to meet my own in these other areas of my life. It's like a very unfair thing to ask your spouse to do, and impossible, really. And so I think that if they're not on board, it's like, the first thing I always ask is, well, okay, how bad do you want it? Because if you want it super bad and it's your dream and your vision, maybe what you need to get better at, besides the things that are just saying, is casting vision.
Yeah.
Because what I really noticed in my past is when there wasn't buy-in on the vision, what was really going on is the other was saying, where do I fit?
Right.
It's just a safety question.
Well, and in business, you cast a vision and your employees are there to fit into it with their dreams and their goals.
Right.
Obviously, an employee and a spouse relationship is very different, but if we're speaking from the mind of an entrepreneur, how do you cast a vision as a family, as a unit, as a couple, and then be like, here's what my dream is, here's what your dream is, here's the family dream. It's probably just communication to see how it all fits.
Yeah. My guess is that most people with like their head on straight are not actually trying to keep someone from reaching their vision. It's a safety question. It's a what's going to happen to us when XYZ happens. You know what I mean? It's like, because I think that's part of what happened also in the past is previous relationships that I had where it's like, hey, you're going to go be an entrepreneur. Well, and then there's like just this immediate assumption that, oh my gosh, if that happens and you're Elon Musk.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? It's from zero to
Elon.
You're like, and there's no middle ground.
I'm going to get blindsided. One day my husband's going to be Elon Musk.
Right. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't sign up for that kind of growth. It's like, well,
we're going to take the stairs.
What if you were just, hey, you don't want to run the race with me? Every once in a while, do you mind just being one of those people that's holding a cup of water as I run by and just saying good job, and they'll slap on the butt and keep going? Like, that's all I need. You know, I'm not asking you to run it with me. And
good hustle, champ.
It's a roles and goals conversation again.
Yeah.
They're asking how they fit. I think that's half of the fear. It may not be, I don't want you to go after your dreams. It's probably first that. And then my other guess is that, which I did run into this a little bit, where it's almost like there wasn't the belief that I could do it. And I get that. And you know what? They were right. I couldn't. There's no dream in your life that you're actually qualified for in the moment. You got to grow. They were right. And so I don't know if you can go after that. I don't know if you can go do that. Thank them. You know, you're right. I'm not good enough yet. I'm going to go make myself good enough. And that's really, so I don't know. That's the best news everyone wants to hear with it, but I think it's just honest. Maybe you're not good enough. Go get good.
Yeah.
Right?
I love when you talk about the me 3 years ago was not qualified to be who I am today.
No.
You got to put on the armor, get in the gym, do the reps, and you grow into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be qualified to do what I'm doing right now, even a year ago. Like, we wouldn't be doing this. You imagine if we started this show 4 years ago? We were not.
Oh, the stuff we would be talking about would be so different. But also how cool that a year from now, the stuff that we'll be talking about will also evolve as we do. And we're just laying the breadcrumbs as we go. And like, hey, this is what we've learned. If you want to join the conversation, we would love that. And there's a whole community around Rare Things to create a safe space and environment community for people that are also that have rare perspectives that create extraordinary lives. That's why we wanted to create this. It's
kind of like this just popped in my head. It's like when you're working with a business, you are measuring the business based on outcomes 80%, right? And growth maybe like 20, you know, meaning like there was someone who did a project for me once and it was awful. And she was like, I tried really hard. I'm like, that's not what I pay for. I paid for this. And you knew that. I'm sorry. But like, I paid for this and you said you could deliver. I got like negative. Like, I don't even know, what is this? You know? And she was like, you just need to realize that not everyone has your standard. I'm like, I'm not lowering my business standard. It is in business, it is about outcomes, right? But in relationships, it's about growth. And I think that that's part of what gets messed up is we use the way that we measure business and success in a relationship. And so instead of celebrating a spouse's growth, we're saying, did you get this perfected outcome? And it's an unfair measurement bar to go hit with. And so then it literally sets up for failure because there's no such thing as perfection, in relationship, You're just growing. You have to celebrate the ups and the downs and all those parts of it. So business is like 80% outcome, 20% growth, but in relationship, totally opposite. It's 80% growth, celebrating the growth, and growth is messy. 20% perfection, if it even exists.
Mm-hmm. And I think the same way that you have structures in business for your annual planning and your quarterly planning and your monthly and your weekly and your commitments and you reverse engineer those goals. I remember when we were reading 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, a favorite, a must read.
We keep bringing him up.
Not just like that's not just a must read. It's like a must read multiple times a year.
Yeah.
Because I love the frameworks in it. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we read the book thinking about how do we 10X business. But I also asked him once when we had dinner with him, what's a 10X goal for a relationship? Because like a 10X goal for business can be like, I want to make $1 million. I want to, whatever.
It's easy to quantify.
What do you do in relationships? And so I asked him that, and he said sometimes it's like a shift in mindset that you want to grow through together. You think about, and in that book, he talks about the 80-20, the 80% that you're focusing on, that if you let go of and have this new 20%, like what's an 80% of your relationship that you have right now that maybe is something to raise the floor, which raises then the outcome or the expectations or the goals. And so anyway, that's just maybe something for people to consider or a resource for people to listen to or read after this podcast too.
Yeah.